כי עמדנו יחד.
We must continue to stand together and fight together to achieve all our war objectives: the defeat of the enemy, the release of our hostages, and the assurance that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel.
Ceasefire talks in Gaza may be dead, and Israel's Prime Minister is preparing for the final push. Benjamin Netanyahu says the IDF will move to occupy all of Gaza, rejecting partial deals for hostages. Washington hints at an all-or-nothing plan, while 600 former Israeli security chiefs warn the war is no longer just and must end now. But with famine spreading and Gaza already 75% under Israeli control, Netanyahu is doubling down, not backing off. Negotiations over a Gaza ceasefire appear to have reached an end, or at least a point of extreme brinkmanship, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu indicated he plans to expand military operations to occupy the entire Gaza Strip.
Today, at the conclusion of Tisha B'Av, we are in the midst of an intense war, in which we have achieved very significant, historic accomplishments. Because we were not divided, because we stood together and fought together. We must continue to stand together and fight together to achieve all our war objectives: the defeat of the enemy, the release of our hostages, and the assurance that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel. Later this week, I will convene the cabinet to instruct the IDF on how to achieve these three objectives, all of them without exception.
An Israeli official said that discussions with the Trump administration over the decision were ongoing. The official told the Washington Post, "There is a growing understanding that Hamas is not interested in a deal." Steve Witkoff, President Donald Trump's special envoy on the negotiations, told hostage families in Tel Aviv that his proposal for a temporary ceasefire and the return of about half of the 20 living Israeli hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza doesn't work, and we've tried everything.
Trump now believes that everybody should come home at once. No piecemeal deals. The administration was formulating a new all-or-nothing plan. Now, we think that we have to shift this negotiation to all or nothing. Everybody comes home.
The Washington Post, citing diplomats and hostage families briefed by US officials, reported that details of the administration's new approach and the extent to which it aligns with Prime Minister Netanyahu's latest military plans remain unclear. Meanwhile, officials in Qatar and Egypt, who, along with the United States, have been mediating talks between Israel and Hamas since the conflict began nearly 2 years ago, said they were not aware of any new US-backed ceasefire deal. While right-wing members of Netanyahu's government have long supported a complete takeover of Gaza, senior security officials have repeatedly insisted that Israel has achieved its military objectives of eliminating Hamas's ability to govern Gaza or launch military offensives, according to Israeli media accounts. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir called to conquer all of the Gaza Strip during his statement from within the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound.
The horrific videos of Hamas come against the backdrop of one thing: their attempt to create pressure on the state of Israel. And I say precisely from here, from the Temple Mount, in the place where we have proven that sovereignty and governance are possible. Precisely from here, a message must be sent to ensure that we conquer all of the Gaza Strip, declare sovereignty over the entire Gaza Strip, take down every Hamas member, and encourage voluntary migration. Only in this way will we bring back the hostages and win the war.
The IDF says it already controls more than 75% of Gaza, a densely populated territory of 141 square miles. The United Nations has said that only 12% of Gaza is outside the Israeli militarized zone or areas not affected by IDF evacuation orders. The majority of Gaza's 2.2 million people now live in tent encampments in the southern part of the enclave. Meanwhile, a group of some 600 retired Israeli security officials, including former heads of intelligence agencies, have written to US President Donald Trump to pressure Israel to end the war in Gaza immediately.
It is our professional judgment that Hamas no longer poses a strategic threat to Israel. Your credibility with the vast majority of Israelis augments your ability to steer Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government in the right direction. End the war, return the hostages, stop the suffering.
Their appeal comes amid reports that Netanyahu is pushing to expand military operations in Gaza as indirect ceasefire talks with Hamas have stalled. The latest intervention by the top former Israeli officials came after videos of 2 emaciated Israeli hostages were released by Hamas and Islamic Jihad militants. Israeli and Western leaders widely condemned the videos. After the videos were released, Netanyahu spoke with the 2 hostage families, telling them that efforts to return all the hostages will continue constantly and relentlessly. But an Israeli official, widely quoted by local media, said Netanyahu was working to free the hostages through the military defeat of Hamas, BBC reported. The possibility of a new escalation in Gaza may further anger Israel's allies, who have been pushing for an immediate ceasefire as reports of Palestinians dying from starvation or malnutrition cause shock around the world. The main group supporting hostages' families condemned the idea of a new military offensive, saying, "Netanyahu is leading Israel and the hostages to doom." That view was pointedly made in the letter to Trump by former Mossad chief Tamir Pardo, Ami Ayalon, former chief of Shin Bet, Israel's domestic secret service agency, former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and former Defense Minister Moshe Yaalon, among others.
At first, this war was a just war, a defensive war, but when we achieved all military objectives, this war ceased to be a just war.
Former Israeli security chiefs from the Commanders for Israel's Security, CIS, has renewed its call for an end to the Gaza war, emphasizing the urgent need to prioritize the return of hostages. In a statement, as reported by the BBC, the retired officials, representing former leaders of the IDF, Mossad, Shin Bet, police and diplomatic corps, urged the government to stop the Gaza war, drawing a parallel to Israel's past withdrawal from Lebanon. They stressed that Israel had shown the capacity to disengage when necessary and called for a similar decision in Gaza, suggesting that continued fighting was no longer in Israel's strategic interest. On August 4th, at least 94 people were killed in Gaza, out of which dozens died in Israeli strikes, and at least 24 people had been killed while seeking aid, the Gaza Health Ministry said. The territory is also experiencing mass deprivation as a result of heavy restrictions imposed by Israel on what is allowed into Gaza. The ministry says 180 people, including 93 children, have died from malnutrition since the start of the war. UN-backed agencies have said the worst-case scenario of famine is currently playing out in Gaza. On August 4th, CNN captured the desperation of hundreds of Palestinians in central Gaza as people rushed towards aid boxes that many rely on as the hunger crisis continues. 6 countries were involved in dropping 120 aid packages in total, according to the Israel Defense Forces.